Good morning, good afternoon, good evening to all attendees. I believe we have an international group joining today, so welcome to everybody. Very warm welcome. And in this webinar, we're going to be looking at how artificial intelligence and the latest technologies that are available can be applied into self-service. And the reason to do that is to empower end users to solve their own issues. So we're going to explain how AIM has applied these technologies to real-life situations through our software platform, DataServe. My name is Steve Ackland. I'm the director of AIM, and I'm really delighted to introduce this particular session that was going to be delivered by my colleague, Matt Smith, who I'll be introducing very, very shortly. Lasts about 45 minutes, and there will be an opportunity, if you do have any questions, for raising those throughout the session, and I'll try and pick up some towards the end. So if you do have any, make sure you do send them through. And for those who are familiar with Zoom, as you know, there is a Q&A button at the bottom of your console. All you need to do is click on that and enter the details, and I will be monitoring that throughout the next 45 minutes. We're also going to be recording this session for publication on AIM TV, so people can see this again, and you can share this with your colleagues if you feel that's appropriate. But first, I just want to introduce the topic and why really is this topic important. Well, we know at AIM, from our many years of working with different systems and end user portals, that the key drivers really and challenges of organisations, which have been in the past and certainly are now and will be into the future, is about delivering an outstanding digital experience for their end users. The ability to deliver change content quickly and easily, because as we well know, to an end user, the brand of the organisation is the application and the access to that information and that portal through the screen that they're actually using for their IT services. So it's very, very important that you do deliver this outstanding experience for them. Also need to provide smart automation to deliver this frictionless access to the services and resources that an organisation wants to provide to its end users and its stakeholders. And equally important is around providing a tool which can support and enable cost-effective digital transformation, particularly where in most organisations there's a complete mixture of architectures and infrastructure. So that could be contemporary, it could be cloud, it could also be legacy systems, which is difficult always and generally very expensive to bring together and to harmonise to the benefit of your end users. And yet, with all that experience, accessing an off-the-shelf platform that allow these opportunities to be delivered, most importantly in a fully no-code configurable way, rather than having an army of developers associated with it, really wasn't available. So we use all that experience and our knowledge from users and organisations we work with, and the application of new technologies to create DataServe. And to add to that, last year in 2020 particularly, I think this came into sharp focus, whereby organisations really struggled to deliver access to additional services and resources remotely, as obviously staff and stakeholders moved to working from home. And as we go into 21 and 22, that will continue in the frame of a hybrid operation. So being able to get information out quickly, changing that information quickly, and delivering it out to stakeholders, end users, is increasingly important to an organisation. So I've provided a little bit of context to the webinar, and in so doing, I'd like to now hand over to Matt Smith. Matt's our DataServe product manager, and he also heads up pre-sales in this area, and he will be taking us through the demonstration. So before I pass over to Matt, one final reminder: if you do have any questions, please raise them on the Q&A button in your console, and I will deal with those and bring those at the end. Other than that, Matt, over to you.
Great, thanks very much, Steve. And hello, everybody. Thanks very much for joining us today, spending the time to hear us speak about DataServe and also, of course, see it in action. So here's our agenda. We've covered off introductions and we're on time so far, which is great. I'm going to spend 5 minutes talking about what is DataServe. So Steve's spoken a little bit about it there, and I'm going to really dive into some of the key features so you get a feel for what it does. Also, why DataServe? It's naturally an important question. You know, why should you consider this for your organization? 25 minutes or so we'll spend doing the demo itself. So that's the lion's share. of what we're looking at today. But as Steve said, we will have 5 minutes at the end for Q&A, and also to discuss next steps, because if you're interested, you need to know who to contact and what to ask for. All right then, so what is DataServe? I've got 8 bullet points that I'm going to go through on the right-hand side for those rather fancy images. But one of the things I like to do is actually show you this very short video. It's only about 10 seconds long on the left-hand side. And it's a really great way of getting across the concept of DataServe. So traditionally, and without DataServe, this is how user communities interact with the various ticketing systems, agent chats, and knowledge bases that a large organization has. And it's a very fragmented affair. When it comes to self-service, your user community is interacting with all of these different ticketing systems, which may or may not have their own portal associated with them. Those portals may or may not provide a good search capability, user experience, etc. Maybe different agent chats, associated with all those different service teams, even different virtual agents, within a specific organization. And then finally, different knowledge bases. So I, as a user, if I've got a particular issue or a particular request, it isn't clear to me at all where to go. There's so much choice. And, if there are 5 places for me to go and search for the answer to my problem, and after sort of the second place, I don't find it, I'm probably going to give up and speak to somebody on the phone or send an email. And that's the reason, the fact that it is so fragmented, that many large organizations, enterprises, higher educational establishments tend to struggle to get high adoption of self-service because of this fragmented nature. And then if I just click play on this, you'll see DataServe just swoops in there. This is why I like this short video, because it really does demonstrate exactly what DataServe does. It sits in between that very complex service landscape and acts as a service broker, a data broker between the user community and that complexity. So let's picture that. I'm a user, I've got an issue, I need to find a user guide, or I need to submit a form or ask a question. I don't need to have a think about where to go to. The answer is really easy. I go to DataServe, type in what I'm looking for, and DataServe will look across all of those different knowledge bases, all those different systems, and also be able to hand me off to various agent chats and virtual agents as well. So I've got one place to go to as a user. So let's flesh that out on the right-hand side then with our bullet points. So in order for DataServe to deliver what it does, is it has to be tool agnostic. And what I mean by that is those ticketing systems that we've got on the bottom left there, they will normally, of course, come with their own self-service portal. So if you have an IT system, probably have an end user portal associated with it. And it usually, and in almost all cases, is not tool agnostic. It is wedded to that system. So DataServe, being tool agnostic, not linked to any other system inherently, allows it to sit across everything. And it uses open APIs and out-of-the-box connectors in order to connect to all those different sources. So that's what we mean by tool agnostic self-service portal. It also has an AI search and multilingual virtual agent capability. And what that means is users have got the choice about how they use it on a case-by-case basis. So sometimes it is easy, right, just to do a search. That's why going to Google, you've got a search bar to search what you're looking for. But also sometimes it's nice to have that personal touch and be walked through an issue by a virtual agent. And you'll see it's all integrated into the same search bar. So a lot of systems may have similar capability, but generally your virtual agent is a separate login or a separate pop-up. It isn't fully integrated into the user interface. And I'll show you how we do that with DataServe. We also automatically capture both explicit and implicit user feedback as users are using the system. That's then captured and fed into our machine learning model. And I'll explain a little bit more about what we mean about the difference between explicit and implicit. But the implicit is that sort of user behavior that we're capturing automatically. So somebody doesn't need to necessarily give a big thumbs up or a thumbs down so that we know that that resource was useful to them or not. We can actually automatically derive and infer how useful the resource was to them by how they interact with it. So I'll be showing you how that works. DataServe also has a no-code integration builder and automation engine. And the same can be said as well for its page layout builder and also branding configuration. So as Steve said earlier, you don't need a team of developers to manage this. We have native integration with leading ITSM tools and other business service management tools and knowledge bases and things like Active Directory. So you can get up and running pretty quickly. It's a case of turning those connectors on, feeding DataServe with the information it needs. It's also mobile friendly, so we don't have a separate DataServe app. The way it works is it's called a responsive web application. And what that means is that DataServe understands what device you're using it on, and it will scale itself accordingly. So you don't need to manage a separate app and put it on your sort of whitelisted app store. It's literally just a website. And then you can hook it up, of course, with any authentication methods you need, like Okta or Microsoft Authentication, for example. And at its heart, it's driven by natural language understanding. That's what NLU stands for, machine learning, and it also has a very powerful neural network. So these are all things that DataServe has inherently that allows it to search for the best resources, but also communicate with the user in a very natural way, so that the virtual agent called Aimee, but you can actually call the virtual agent whatever you like in the system, discusses and speaks to a user in a friendly way that has conversational automation capabilities. So we'll show you what that looks like. And it's aimed at enterprises with complex service needs, naturally. Yes, you could just use DataServe as a skin to a single system if you want to, update the user interface, user experience, and provide AI. But you get the most out of it when you're integrating it with many systems and many knowledge bases, because you get rid of that fragmented issue that we saw in the video. All right, so why should you consider DataServe? Well, as Steve mentioned earlier, it allows you to do low-cost digital transformation. So you have this single system, single portal, links to all of your underlying services. And what that allows you to do is to really breathe new life into legacy systems. So you might have a lot of work management systems and the like that just don't support features like machine learning and AI. And you may have product managers and service owners going and having a look at RFIs and RFPs. Can we replace these with more modern systems? Naturally, the cost of doing so can be quite considerable. DataServe just brings new life to those systems. It acts as a skin, across that service layer, and allows your HR system or your facilities system that may lack certain capabilities to suddenly have, virtual agent and AI capability. So what you then have is this exceptional digital experience across the whole of service delivery. It's no longer just the case that, IT have got a great portal, but no one else has, or facilities have got a great one, for example. Whatever user you are within the organization, whatever service you're after, you do get that great digital experience across all different services. So increased self-service adoption naturally occurs, right, when you've got one place to go to and when self-service actually works because you're driving it through AI. And when you then implement high levels of automation, so you're making sure that these tickets aren't going straight to a service team and they are being handled through DataServe's automation engine. And also when you have high levels of self-help, because people can find what they're looking for finally, then that leads to all these different things at the bottom left there. So naturally, reduced ticket numbers, you get low average resolution times because things are being automatically completed through automation. Naturally, everybody's much happier, not to mention your service teams. And that's really what we're demonstrating on the right-hand side here. So at the top of our sort of mini clip, without DataServe, you have your user community with all of their requests and issues. They're pretty much going straight to the service team. You have to have a large service team in order to manage that. They've got a lot of tickets to look after. Self-service adoption is very low. And then with DataServe, which is flying off on the bottom of the screen here, it's in effect acting as a filter. So your users are going direct to DataServe for all of their issues and requests. You've got high levels of self-service. You've got your virtual agent and your automation capability. And therefore, only a few tickets actually need to go through and get seen by a human being on the service team. So that is enough of the slides. And pleased to say we're now going to go into the demonstration. So this is what we'll be looking at, and you've got a couple of sneak previews there of what DataServe looks like. So we'll start off with branding. This, what you can see on the left-hand side, is the sort of default out-of-the-box branding, but naturally nobody uses this. You know, when I do a demo to a customer or we implement DataServe, DataServe tends to look like their website in the end, in that you have branding throughout, you have the same sort of copy, you have the same images, logos, and colors. So I'll just show you what our branding looks like, but bear that in mind when you see it. If you're not a fan of purple and retro neon landscapes, then that doesn't preclude you from using DataServe, because you can brand it however you want. We'll then go into a quick overview. So before sort of doing any searching or anything like that, I'll just start at the top and work my way down and just tell you what you can see on screen. We'll then go into the AI search capability, and we'll just do some basic searching to start off with. So I'm going to have an issue with my printer and show you how DataServe handles that. And we'll cover off different things like filtering, how we look after corrections, so if somebody is spelling something incorrectly, and also a concept called ontology, which is really, really nice in that we understand how certain words are linked together. So when somebody searches for the word printer, let's say, we can also automatically include words like paper and jam, because they are associated through this ontology. So I'll show you that. We'll then jump into the virtual agent, and you'll actually hear Aimee talk to me. So we have full text-to-speech capability. I'm also going to use a mixture of sort of typing to Aimee and also speaking. So again, speech-to-text capability there. And we'll talk about all the various features we have, like natural language understanding. I'll kick off an automation request, actually creating a new Microsoft team. So I'll show you how that works. A bit of fun, you can play a game while you wait. So these automations can sometimes take a minute or so. So I like to throw up a basic version of Minesweeper to show you that you can play a little game while you're waiting for the automation to occur. And then things like handing off to agent chats, etc. We'll talk about that. Language switching as well is really nice. So it is multilingual, and you do have a default language in the app. And however, if you are multilingual and you actually change the language that you use when speaking to Aimee, Aimee will flag that up and say, you've been speaking to me in English, but it sounds like you want to speak to me in French. Would you like to switch? So it's a very personal touch there to Aimee and the use of languages throughout the app. And then I will also show you the admin console. We won't go into too much detail because there's obviously a lot in there, but I will show you some of the features around PII redaction. Actually is quite a hot topic. I'll cover that, but also how we build these integrations and these automations without any code. So that's what we're going to cover. I will close down the PowerPoint then and load up the system, and we'll kick off. So the first point then, branding. As I said, this is just here for demonstration purposes based on our DataServe brand, and this can look however you need it to. And actually one of the next steps on the final slide is I can take you up on an offer if you would like to see what DataServe would look like with the branding of your organization. And we can record a quick 60-second clip and send that over to you so that you know what it would look like possibly for your organization. So we're going to start at the top then. I'm just going to move down and show you what you can see on screen and explain what we have here. So at the top right, we've got our notifications bell. This is showing us loads of interesting and important things like approvals that are outstanding. So I can click on that, approve or reject as you'd expect. And again, just to put this into context, this is a system that is not just looking, let's say, at the IT system. This could be looking at HR, facilities, sales portals, supplier management systems, anything at all that you have within your organization that requires approvals, forms to be submitted, contains knowledge of any type. This is the skin for all of those systems. We're also seeing things like events, so getting reminded about certain events that are happening. I'm also following an alert, which is in effect like a P1 issue, let's say. I followed it and it's since been closed. So I'm being updated about the things that I'm following within the application as well. I'll quickly show you our My Profile screen. So this is me, and this is just to highlight the language support. So in this case, I'm not actually a great speaker of French, but for the purposes of the demonstration, just showing that you have your main language, but also we specify what additional languages you may speak. And that doesn't just work with the virtual agent, in that the virtual agent might prompt to speak to you in a different language possibly, but also how you're searching within the system as well. If you've got knowledge items that are written in different languages, then naturally, if I'm multilingual, I might want to have access to both the English and the French versions, perhaps. I'm also showing you, we have a field here called persona, and it's really just a point here about how the app is built. So this machine learning model, where it's continually gathering feedback on how effective the resources are that we're presenting to our end user community, it's as granular as what we call a persona. And what that is anything you want it to be. It could be business areas, it could be roles, it could be job titles. And it's based on the assumption that people that do a similar role or carry out a system, a certain job, or as part of a certain user community, may like to view the sort of different types of resources, right? So your developers may want really techie sort of documentation. Your more traditional end user community may prefer to see things like videos, for example. And just to note, we also have an accessibility mode, so it's a high contrast mode for those that would prefer it and require it. Moving across then, we have our cog, which takes us to the admin console. So I won't click on that just yet, but we will do shortly. And you'll see we've got a rather nice little icon here of a sapling, and this is our gamification engine. So you've now got gamification out the box across all of your service levels, all of your service teams. Now, what does that mean? Well, when I log into the system, if I carry out a search, if I speak to the virtual assistant, perhaps use a knowledge article, I can earn points for doing so. And I therefore earn different badges. And this is just another example of what we have out the box according to our default DataServe branding. But naturally, when it comes to a customer organization, they will have their own sort of levels and their own logos associated with those different badges. And I'll just show you quickly, actually, if we jump into the admin console. It's as simple as uploading the icon that you want, how many points does it take to achieve that. And you can also configure how many points each of the actions have. So if we want to really drive up use of the virtual agent, or really drive up use of knowledge articles, let's say, so self-help, as opposed to submitting tickets, then you can actually try and encourage people that way. And it's a little bit of fun, but it actually helps drive up adoption, especially if you say, for instance, the team with the most points at the end of the month get a mini break or a bottle of champagne. And it's a way of really gathering some excitement about the tool and encouraging its use. Moving down then, we have our alerts banner, and you can hover on this for more information. I can scroll through the different alerts. They're on a carousel, and I can also choose to subscribe or not to those. So these are your traditional sort of P1s, P2s that you need to get out to your user community, and saving on the calls that come through to the help desk or emails, because I can log into here and see those important announcements immediately. And what I would say is, in this example, we have our alerts banner right at the top, but you can move all of these components around wherever you like. So we follow a gridification principle. And again, it's a page layout builder requiring no code. So you can drag and drop things where they need to be. So this is just an example implementation that we have here. Moving down, we've got our AI search bar, and I'll do a very quick search here just to give you a sneak preview of how it works, but we will come back to this. This is where I'll be spending most of my time during the demonstration. So I'll be carrying out searches, and I'll be speaking with the virtual agent through here as well. Moving down, we've got a service health section. So again, the services that are important to me, if I do feel that there's an issue with a particular service, I can just come to DataServe. I can see if there are any reported issues. And again, this is integrating with perhaps your IT service management systems, any like alerting and monitoring systems you have as well. So you've got a single view for your end user. I can give that a click, see what's going on, see what the ETA is, what have IT or the service team been doing to try and fix it. And again, I can subscribe to that service outage so that I get a notification once it's resolved. And we also have the more traditional service catalog. So if I didn't want to use the AI search bar and I just perhaps wanted to browse to see what services are available to me, then that's supported as well through our catalog component. And then down the bottom, these are just some examples of the other types of components that we have. And there's quite a lot here, and in a normal implementation, you would perhaps keep it slightly more lean, but it's just an example to show you how you can have pinned items that are popular, lists of tickets, for example, those items that are awaiting approval, things like pinned videos, but also we have an events calendar. So if you need to publish your forward schedule of change, need to tell people about change freezes, etc., then you can publish those on DataServe as well, either through a connector through that system where those are kept, or you can actually just add them into DataServe itself. All right, so that's a quick run through top to bottom, what DataServe looks like. I'm now going to do a couple of searches. So let's start off with something simple. My printer's broken. And so DataServe's now gone off, and you see it's very quick. It's gone across multiple knowledge bases and IT service management, business service management systems, and it's trying to find the best resources for me. And I'm going to show you what we see on screen here then. We've got a list of the top 3. And you can see we've defaulted to a tab here called AI Suggestions. And this is based on the suitability, or at least what DataServe deems to be the suitability of these resources versus my search term. And I'll just explain again what we see on screen here before we start clicking into everything. But in terms of each of the resources themselves, you'll see on the right-hand side, you can have visibility of how many views that has had and also how many positive interactions that resource has created. For the articles, you can see average reading time. So you know whether you want to open it up or not. If there's sort of war and peace in there, but actually you're looking for something short, you can make that decision pretty quickly. You've got the title of guide and also a snippet from within that article or that video or whatever it is. And it's the snippet that's got the best match. And I'll actually show you later, if I change my search term and instead of saying my printer's broken, but I'll say something slightly different, the snippet that's presented back to the user is different. And it allows me again to make that informed decision about which resource I want to have a look at. We also have a percentage match. So you see we've got 78% here for printer user guide. The video guide is a little bit less. And it's based on a number of factors. So it's looking at the search term that I've typed in and how closely that matches those different resources. It's also looking at, because it's got that machine learning model, how useful and helpful these resources have been to other people within my persona. So you might infer from this that the user guide is really useful and perhaps the printer guide is slightly less useful. And so that's something that I, again, can look at when I'm working out which resource I want to go into. Let's give them a click. So this is what they look like when they load up. So this is just an example of a printer user guide. I can give my feedback down the bottom here. And again, just imagine that these are resources that are held in multiple different systems across your service environment. These are, of course, just example resources that we're showing here. Your resources will naturally differ. This is an example of a video that you might want to present to your users. And this is an example here of something that's containing rich text. You'll also see we have a number of different filters across here. Now, these aren't all available resource types. There are actually some other ones as well, like links and alerts. And DataServe will only give you the filter that applies to what it's found. So it's found 2 knowledge articles. So if I want to have a look on a resource by resource basis, I can do that too. There's the video, there's the request form. But the reason why it defaults to AI suggestions is it's much quicker just to say to the user, across all resource types that we found, here are the top 3. All right, so that's how we do searching, and that's how we do basic searching. Now, what if perhaps I'm not that great at spelling, and I'm going to spell printer's broken a little bit like this? You'll see that we actually get the same list of results. The percentage, I believe, has differed ever so slightly in terms of how well it's matched. And the reason why we're able to do that is that we have inbuilt dictionaries within the application supporting whatever languages you need to support. And that allows us, therefore, to correct words where required. And just to demonstrate how that's happened, this is normally, this searching keywords thing at the top is normally a feature that's hidden within the application. But this is actually what DataServe is searching on. And you'll see in bold, we have the word printer, we also have the word broken. So it's done its autocorrection. What it does at the same time is also exclude any words that aren't needed, like maybe we say that would or how or my are types of words that we don't need to search on. And it also enriches the search using these extra ontology words, as you can see. So because DataServe understands that not working is associated with the word broken, well, it throws it in there. The idea behind all of that is we're casting a broad net across all of the service systems that you have, pulling back only therefore the best results for the user. And I'm sure you've heard it all before where your users are saying, I just can't find what I'm looking for. And that's usually is the main reason why self-service adoption is low, why people like using email and phone instead of portals. I can't find what I'm looking for. This is all designed to make that no longer a reality. Let's do a slightly more complex search then. So I'm going to say my printer's broken and it has a red light. So I'm being slightly more specific. You'll see the percentages are differing ever so slightly. But you'll also see that our little snippet that we've found has changed. And it's allowing me, again, as my user, to make that really quick, informed decision about whether this is something that's going to help me or not. In this case, this looks like a great resource for me to open up and see if it helps with my issue. We also have some other features within our machine learning model. So let's say my printer's on fire. Now, I know it's a slightly strange example, but I'll let you know where I'm going with this. You'll see that we can still find, again, similar guides there, percentage match differing ever so slightly. Now, if I come across this printer user guide, because that's what's being presented to me, and I say, that's really good, thank you, DataServe, that's actually helped me with my printer fire issue. So I provide some feedback. What DataServe is going to do is say, right, in this context, for Matt, he had a fire with his printer. This user guide was useful, but we don't contain the word fire in it anywhere, either as like a description or a content word or a keyword. And what DataServe that now does is it's actually automatically added the keyword fire to the printer user guide, so that next time somebody has the same issue, it may be rated slightly higher for them. So what this does is really helps knowledge owners keep their documents up to date. It's not just things like eventualities that we haven't covered like fire, but it's actually the way in which people talk about their machines. And that's a good example, right? Laptop, some people call it a machine, or a desktop, some people call it a tower. And sometimes knowledge articles aren't always written in exactly the same sort of terminology that our user base uses. DataServe is capturing how our user community talks and automatically is updating the resources so that they can better find them in the future. Let's have a quick look as well at something around the implicit feedback mechanism that we have. So I'm just going to find a knowledge article here. There's one here called "What is our mobile policy?" Now you'll see it's about a minute read. If I open this up, have a quick scan and think, no, that's not actually going to be useful to me. I haven't actually provided DataServe with any feedback on how suitable that resource has been. However, DataServe has implicitly derived that. And what it's done is it's looked at my interaction with it and it said, right, Matt had this issue or this request. He came across this resource. He scanned it. It wasn't great for him. So we're going to say that's a slightly negative interaction. And I've just jumped into the admin console here just to give you some understanding of how that actually works. Now, if we go into our searches and feedback history section, you'll see a list of all the searches that have been going on in the system, who's been doing them, what action the user has taken, so which resource have they then looked at. And we're gathering on the right-hand side here all of the explicit feedback, so the thumbs up, the thumbs down, or the neutrals. We're also capturing the implicit feedback, so their user behavior, and we're aggregating that into a score. So we can work out, even if somebody doesn't tell us if it's good or bad, how suitable it was for them. We've also got some great reporting here, so I can see at the resource level how suitable those resources are. In our case here, I can see that alerts and links are slightly above the sort of the baseline figure of 1. Our events are slightly lower. So this is all about understanding that implicit and explicit feedback and how our users are interacting with our resources. And then I can also see, how much are these different resource types being used? Primarily, users are interacting with knowledge articles, which is great. And actually, the request that they're submitting is quite low in comparison. So you get a lot of feedback into the machine learning model as it's being generated. And we had a look at some small issues there, but also the big ones. So, is Outlook down? There might be a sort of a major incident that's going on. And again, I can come here, type in what I'm looking for, and there we go. The top suggestion there is our alert, 90% match. And I can subscribe as well to that outage, so I'm informed about it. I'm going to move on to the virtual agent now. So let's do a really quick search for printer. And as soon as I click the virtual agent button, you're going to hear Aimee talk to me. So here we go.
Hi, Matt. I'm Aimee, the DataServe assistant. I've got an article for you which will hopefully help. Is this what you were looking for?
So there we go. I've been presented with this, and I've got the option, right? I don't need to use speech to text and text to speech. I can just read what's on screen and turn Aimee's voice off. And I can choose whether I respond with my own voice, whether I use these on-screen prompts, or whether I actually type in this bar here. So I'm going to give some feedback. Not really. I'd rather watch a video.
I'm sorry that didn't help you. I've also found this video. Is this any more helpful?
So Aimee's able to understand my sentiment and my intent, and it's understanding the different resources that I'm more interested in possibly, and it's therefore changing the search results that's coming back. So I'm going to say that's great, so I can give a thumbs up.
That's great. What else can I help you with today?
So let's throw another example at Aimee. I need to change my name. I'm getting married this week.
I found this smart form which I think might help. Do you want me to take you through submitting this?
So I can open up this form and actually complete it within the chat window that you have here, but Aimee is suggesting we can actually go through it together. So let's do that.
Sure, I can help with that. Please answer the following questions. What's your new full name?
John Doe. John Doe. And you'll see I'm just having to click this mute button here.
When should this change take effect?
You can actually have it so that Aimee is always listening to you, but I've just turned that on so that I can speak to you, in between I'm speaking with Aimee. I'm getting married next Tuesday at noon.
Here's everything I've gathered. Would you like me to submit this for you?
And this is an example of the natural language understanding that Aimee has built in. So that field there is actually a field within Remedyforce, which is an IT service management system. It's expecting a date time. And what I've been able to do is actually, instead of giving it in the date time format, I can say things like next Tuesday at noon, and Aimee will understand that and extract that entity is what it's called and submit it for me. Yes, please.
Your answers have been processed successfully and your reference is 0000756. What else would you like help with?
So you can see there, my ticket's been submitted for me, so I haven't had to actually type anything at this stage. I've just said yes and answered a few questions. I can also ask general questions about what's going on in the organization. Is there a change freeze this week?
Here's an event which appears to be what you're looking for. Is this what you were looking for?
And again, I can go ahead and subscribe to that event if perhaps I'm a developer and I need to know when the change freeze is and isn't. So again, I can give some feedback. That was great.
Great to hear. What else can I help you with?
And we can also fire off automation from here. So listen to this. I'm starting a new project and I'd like to create a new Microsoft team.
I've got a smart form for you which will hopefully help. Is this what you were looking for?
So what we've got now is a form for me to complete, and instead of this going off to a queue, a user in Remedyforce, let's say, or another system to complete, I'm going to fill out the form within my chat screen here, and when it's submitted, it's going to go through an automation process to automatically fulfill the request for me. Now, that can take a minute or so, So I can say, I'd like to play a game while I wait.
Here you go.
And there you go. I can play Minesweeper. You know, Aimee can suggest that to me automatically as well if we've configured the system that way. And I'm not that great at Minesweeper, but you can see you can have a little play around while that's happening. You can also transfer to an agent. So here we go. I'd like to speak to an agent, please.
No problem at all. Transferring you now.
So this won't go anywhere because it's linked to a development agent system within one of our sandboxes. But the idea there, of course, is that if this was a live system, I'd be put in touch with whoever is looking after that service. The great thing about it as well is it can understand the type of issue that I've got. So in this case, it might be IT. So it knows to send me to the IT team. If I was talking about doors and walls, it might send me to the facilities team. Now, let's just quickly go into the admin console. I am conscious of time and we need a couple of minutes to wrap up at the end. Now, we do have a section here within our system settings page called flow list. And this is telling us what's happened to our integration that we've just submitted. And while I've been speaking, it's done. This is the process. When I submitted that create new Microsoft Team form, this is exactly what it did. So it created a ticket within Remedyforce in this case, because we'd like to log that automation has happened. It's created a Microsoft 365 group, which is the first step within the Graph API to do that. It's converted it into a team and it's updated the Remedyforce incident record. So we've been able to fulfill that request for the user without anybody's first line or second line being involved. And you've got that ticket within Remedyforce for your reporting as well. While I'm here, they've got some quite neat features actually in the admin console. So you can do things like record retention policies and also PII redaction. So this is searching for where personally identifiable information is held within your system. We can actually run a regex scan based on different regular expressions. So I can say, let's see where we've got Visa credit card information, for instance, and we can automatically find and redact that information too. And then the final thing I'll just talk about is how we build that integration side of things. Now, I won't go through all of these steps here because we do need a couple of minutes at the end. But in effect, it's a no-code builder. You build your form, you provide some authentication information within step 2. Step 3 is a no-code builder for defining the payload that needs to go off to that API endpoint. And then it all comes together within what's called an integration instance. So these are those different steps that happened after I clicked submit on my Teams form. So it's a drag and drop builder. So I think that's probably everything I wanted to show you there within the demo. I will just quickly come back to our slide deck then and just discuss next steps and see if there are any questions that have come through. Okay, did we have any questions there, Steve? Let's come through on the Q&A.
Yeah, we've got a couple of questions, Matt. First one from Graham. Thank you, Graham, for raising this. You mentioned about it being a multilingual system. Can you give us a rough idea of what sort of languages it currently supports, please?
Yeah, so currently we support up to 35 languages based on the client's needs, and also interestingly among those we can also have different things like dialects. So for instance, Flemish to Dutch is a dialect. We support that. We also support custom languages. So if you wanted to speak to DataServe in Klingon, then that can actually be set up and configured. But now out the box, it's up to 35 languages, which naturally covers most of the key languages across the world.
Great. Hopefully that answers Graham's question. Second question was around types of users. So you've illuminated this concept of persona and different groups, and they can be cut and classified into various ways. Are there any restrictions you've found in terms of the types of users, maybe for which this system can't be used for?
No, I mean, when you look across all the different stakeholders within a large organization, that there aren't any issues there that would preclude somebody from using DataServe. It's built with what I like to call the Facebook concept in mind, which is nobody has attended a Facebook course on how to use it, like a training session. So you can just come along and use the system without needing to be trained on it. So that's a good reason for most people to be able to use it. But then, of course, with the language capability we have there as well, then that's very open. And also when it comes to people with accessibility needs, you've seen that I was able to go through some quite complex form submission and questions that I've asked the system without actually touching my keyboard. So it's a really good way of allowing people with accessibility needs, perhaps issues with dexterity, or just people who talk faster than they type. They can then use their voice and also hear Aimee as well.
Great, thank you. And sorry, I should have said that was from Matt. So thank you for that question, Matt. Another Matt.
Thanks, Matt.
We've also had a chat queries come through, and it's as follows: are queries on the website handled by Aimee? Can you link them through to that as well?
I'm not quite sure what I understand there by queries on the website handled by Aimee, I'm afraid. Is it whether you could perhaps use this on one's website? Steve, do you have any thoughts on?
Yes,
on
our website. I think they're probably saying, yeah.
Oh, I see. Right. No, on the website we actually use the Wix. It's not a virtual agent per se. You will probably come through to me. So if you raise a chat request on our DataServe website, you'll probably have a chat with me.
But we do use it on our service desk.
Correct. Yeah.
And one final point about accessibility. What's the position there?
Yeah, so we've had the high contrast mode, so things like taking away logos and having high contrast text and the like, and then also being able to navigate the application, without using your mouse, without using your keyboard is a really big win for people with accessibility needs. So where you're looking at any large enterprise now, it doesn't have to just be a university or a charity. That there are responsibilities there to make sure that self-service is open to all, whether that's somebody with accessibility needs or not.
And one final point in relation to further education: does setting up this sort of system for further education establishment, does it take a long time? You've on the slide there, you mentioned about 4 to 8 weeks. Any thoughts on whether that's less time, more time?
Sure. Yeah, I mean, spinning up the application itself, it's all hosted on our own AIM SaaS. So spinning it up, your instance is very quick. Because we do have our out-the-box connectors, they're incredibly quick. If I were to integrate with Remedy Force, for instance, it takes all of 2 minutes. I type in some authentication information and off it goes. The time really is around building automations and making sure that you get the most out of DataServe. So that's where we've got that 4 to 8 weeks in there. That's mainly around understanding where automation can take place, and then training you and working with you to build those different endpoint integrations and integration instances so that you can automate a lot of your what otherwise would have been manual processes.
Okay, very good. Did you want to say anything more on that slide, Matt? Otherwise, time has now come to an end, so we're closed. But anything more you want to say?
Yeah, I'll just cover off, sometimes we get asked about the cost, and as you can see there, for a large scale deployment, could be around 10p per user per month. So you can do the maths yourself to get an indicative figure. But please do contact me if you're interested in learning more. So I can do that branded 60-second video for you. I can turn that around in a day or so it doesn't take long. I can also give you a quotation, but also optionally a free needs analysis. So that's like a couple of days of consultancy where we understand your needs and what you could possibly use DataServe for. We can help you build business cases and the like. And then I'm pleased to say throughout October, you'll see some rather interesting things on LinkedIn from our marketing department around offering discounts for DataServe throughout October, because self-service doesn't need to be scary. There's a 10% off extra in October. So please get in touch if you want to learn more.
Okay, and just to add that consulting is free for people who want to take advantage of it. Great. Well, look, thank you very much indeed, Matt, for all that. Hopefully that was illuminating and interesting to those who are on the webinar today. So thanks again for your time. What we will do is we will publish this and send you a link to everybody who attended after the event. So you've got that if you need to see it again or need to share it with any colleagues. Watch out for other webinars in this sort of space from our website. And we'll be sending out posts as well to alert people and those who are subscribed with us. So all it really is to say again is thanks to everybody. Thanks to Matt, and have a good day, rest of the day wherever you are. Thanks again.
Thanks, everyone. Bye-bye.
Thanks. Bye.